You are not who you think you are. You were told who you are. You were handed a name, wrapped in stories, soaked in fear, and shackled with a history you never wrote. Before you could speak, someone whispered your limits. Before you could choose, someone carved your path. Before you could dream, someone drew the borders of your imagination, and you accepted it. They said you were this and not that. They said you could go here but not there. They said this is what people like you do. And you believed them. You learned to answer to a name you did not choose, to defend a face in the mirror that never felt fully yours, to become a shadow of the world's expectations. And every time something divine stirred in you, every time the soul rose up and whispered, "There's more," that voice was met by a louder one, armed with doubt and memory. "No, no, no," it said. "Be realistic. Be careful. Be who you've always been." And so you played the part. You put on the costume of personality. You memorized the lines. You wore the mask so well, even you forgot there was a face beneath it. But here's the thunderous truth. You aren't a person, not in the way you've been led to believe. You are not your past. You are not your job. You are not your name, your trauma, your story, or the things they did to you. You are the force behind it all, the unseen seer, the silent witness, the breath before the thought. And they never told you that, did they? They were too busy shaping you into something familiar, too afraid of what you might become if you remembered, too afraid of the fire in your bones, because a man who forgets his false self is dangerous. A woman who sheds the mask cannot be controlled, and a soul that remembers itself cannot be stopped. So I did not come here to comfort you. I did not come to polish your mask or flatter your ego. I came to drag you out of the fire, to rip the chains from your spirit, to strip you of everything that was never really you, until what's left is truth, naked and burning. Because until you see the lie, you will never see the power. And the lie is this, that you are small, that you are fixed, that you are only what you've been told. But that lie has already begun to crack. Can you feel it? Something ancient in you has stirred, and the illusion no longer holds the weight it once did. You are not breaking down, you are breaking open. And now the real work begins. They gave you a name, and then they gave you a history, and then they gave you rules, not written in stone, but etched in shame. Rules like, don't stand out, don't speak up, don't dream too big, don't want too much. And so you folded. Not because you were weak, but because you were loyal. Loyal to the ones who told you who you were. Loyal to a world that rewarded your silence, your obedience, your forgetting. You were never the problem. Your soul was simply too vast to fit into their boxes. So they taught you to shrink and called it maturity. They taught you to doubt and called it intelligence. They taught you to conform and called it love. But let us tell the truth here. You were conditioned, not created, conditioned. Crafted not by your own hands, but by 1,000 invisible voices. Parents, teachers, preachers, the frightened, the bitter, the small, and each one without knowing pressed a fingerprint onto your soul. Be this, not that. Say this, never that. And like clay, you yielded. You formed, you hardened, you forgot. But deep beneath the hardened self, beneath the persona, beneath the performer, beneath the good girl, the strong man, the peacemaker, the warrior, there is still something untouched. A witness, a center, a fire. It has watched your whole life play out like a stage performance. It has seen every mask you've worn and never once mistaken the costume for the soul. This is the part of you that does not flinch at the truth. This is the part of you that cannot be offended because it does not cling. It does not grasp at approval. It does not beg for identity. It simply is. It is the same in you as it is in me. The same in the beggar as in the king. The same in the child as in the sage. They did not give it to you, and so they cannot take it away. They can mock it, deny it, bury it under lies, but it cannot be broken, for it was never made. It was remembered. You are not the voice in your head. You are the one who hears it. You are not the pain in your past. You are the one who endured it. You are not even your thoughts, for they come and go like clouds, but you remain, still, unshaken, watching, and yet you've spent most of your life believing the voice was you, the inner critic, the doubter, the one who says, "You're not good enough. You'll never change. You always mess it up." You hear it and nod. You call it me. You let it run your days. You let it build your reality. But hear me now. That voice is not your own. It is an echo, a recording, a ghost of the ones who hurt you, afraid you'd outgrow them. It learned its lines from your first heartbreak, from the day they laughed at your light, from the moment you were told that love must be earned, and because you were young and you were desperate to belong, you let it in. And it stayed, not because it was true, but because it was familiar. And so piece by piece, you built your identity around a lie, a brilliant, beautiful soul living as a collection of survival patterns, a divine being acting out the script of a scared child. But listen closely. That voice has begun to crack, not because it's growing louder, but because you are. And as you begin to remember the truth, as you begin to separate the voice from the witness, the illusion begins to fall apart. The chains grow weak. The performance feels hollow. The mask becomes too heavy to wear. And so you arrive at a terrifying, holy moment. If I am not who I thought I was, then who or what am I? That question is not a riddle. It is not a puzzle to solve. It is a door. And you are standing at the threshold. So step through, and as you do, bring nothing with you. Leave the name behind. Leave the story behind. Leave the one who needs to understand behind. Step through not as a person, but as presence. Not as an identity, but as awareness. Because once you cross this line, the game changes. The rules no longer apply, the opinions no longer matter, and the past no longer sticks. You are no longer a character in a play. You are the stage itself, the stillness beneath the storm, the light behind the eyes. They won't know what to do with you now, because they knew how to talk to the old you. They knew how to flatter your ego or press your shame. They knew how to pull your strings because you had strings. But now, what will they pull? What will they shame if you no longer carry shame? What will they control if you no longer play the role? This is what frightens the world, not your failure, but your awakening. They're not afraid you'll fall. They're afraid you'll rise. They're afraid you'll walk away from the old script, the one where you always lose, the one where you always chase, the one where you always need their permission to feel whole. But here's what they don't understand. You've already begun to rise, because the moment you question the illusion, you shatter its spell. The moment you say, "I am not this name, I am not this pain, I am not this past," you break the agreement. And without your agreement, the illusion dies. No one tells you this. No one tells you that identity is a contract you signed while afraid, a contract you are allowed to tear up. But I am telling you now, tear it up, rip it from the root, not with violence, but with clarity. You do not need to fight the old you. You only need to stop feeding it, because the false self feeds on attention. It needs you to keep naming it, defending it, fearing it. It needs you to keep polishing the mask, to keep protecting the prison. But you are wiser now. You see the bars. You see the cost. You see that everything you ever wanted, peace, power, purpose, has been sitting just outside the cell. And the door was never locked. You were. But now you reach for the handle and it turns. And you realize it always did. You were never waiting for permission, only for courage. Not the courage to become something, the courage to unbecome, to walk naked into the unknown, to say, if I lose all that is false, then whatever remains must be true. And that truth is terrifying, because it cannot be explained. It cannot be put into a box or sold as a brand. It cannot be domesticated or controlled. It just is. It is the I am beneath every thought, the silence before every word, the presence before every performance. You were never lost. You were only tangled in labels, layer after layer, name after name, until the real you was hidden behind 1,000 masks. But you were always there, watching, waiting, not asleep, not broken, just waiting to be seen. And now, you are seeing. You see the child who tried to be perfect, the teenager who made themselves small, the adult who confused survival with success. You see them all, and you thank them. You thank them and you release them because they were only trying to protect you, but they are not you. You are not your wounds. You are not your habits. You are not your coping mechanisms. You are the light that survived it all. And now you no longer need to survive. You are ready to live, not as a name, not as a title, not as a collection of roles you play for others, but as something ancient, something primal, something immortal. Not the storm, not the sail, but the wind, unseen, unstoppable, free. And once you taste this freedom, you will never again trade it for belonging. You will no longer betray yourself to be accepted. You will no longer shrink to be loved. You will no longer abandon your knowing just to keep the peace. You will walk as truth and let the world adjust. And it will adjust. Some will leave. Let them. Some will resist. Let them. Some will call you selfish, arrogant, unrecognizable. Let them. Because they are not seeing you. They are seeing the space where their control used to be. But the ones who are meant to walk with you, they will find you now. They will recognize the fire. They will speak your soul's language. Not the old tongue of fear, but the new one of truth. And you will know them not by how they look, but by how you feel in their presence. Free, expanded, whole. And that, my friend, is where life begins. You were not born to play a role. You were not born to wear a mask, chase approval, or serve a story someone else wrote. You were born as pure potential, untouched, unnamed, unashamed. But they couldn't leave you that way, could they? Because the world doesn't know what to do with a being it cannot define. So they gave you a name and called it yourself. They gave you a grade and called it your worth. They gave you a label and called it your destiny. And you took it all in like a sponge. Not because you were weak, but because you were innocent. You believed them when they said, you are this, not that. You can go here, not there. You must be this to be loved, that to be safe. And each belief formed a wall. Each voice became a brick, until your vastness, your true nature, was trapped in a house too small for your soul. And yet, you called it home. You learned how to decorate the cage. You hung your achievements like paintings on the wall. You polished your wounds like trophies. You pointed to your pain and said, this is who I am. But pain is not identity. It is only evidence that the truth has been buried. You are not the prison. You are the power that can tear it down. But that power can only be reclaimed when you are willing to lose what was never truly yours. And that is where most people stop, because it costs something to be free. It costs your comfort. It costs your performance. It costs the admiration of those who only loved your disguise. But listen carefully. What you lose is nothing compared to what you remember. When you drop the mask, you will feel naked at first, exposed, uncertain, alone. But soon, you will feel light, unburdened, true, like air rediscovering the sky. And for the first time, you will look in the mirror and see not a name, not a role, not a reflection of the world's expectations, but a being, a presence, a flame that cannot be contained. And that flame is not here to perform, it is here to burn, not with rage, but with reality. You were not made for imitation. You were made to become a living question mark in a world addicted to answers. Because the moment you let go of who you should be, you create space for who you truly are. And that space, that is where life rushes in. That is where inspiration begins to speak. That is where intuition begins to guide. That is where miracles begin to find you. But be warned, the world will not celebrate your awakening. It will tempt you to return, to water yourself down, to be reasonable, to remember who you are. But they don't mean who you truly are. They mean who you were when you made them comfortable. Do not go back. You are not a memory. You are not a personality. You are not a container for their comfort. You are the one who remembers. You are the one who said, I am not this voice. I am not this wound. I am not this mask. You are the one who stood up from the ashes and refused to wear the chains another day. So let the discomfort come. Let the opinions rise. Let the old life shake at your choosing, because nothing real is ever lost. Only the false falls away. And what remains is what was always there. You were never trying to become yourself. You were only ever trying to return to the stillness, to the knowing, to the fire at the center of your chest that never forgot your name. Not the name they gave you, the name life gave you, the name only silence remembers. And once you hear it, you will never again answer to fear. You will never again bow to the voice of doubt. You will never again betray your intuition for the sake of being liked, because you'll know you are not here to be liked. You are here to be full, to be present, to be uncompromisingly true. And from that place, you will love without needing. You will give without losing. You will create without grasping, because your cup will no longer be filled by applause, but by presence. You'll no longer seek peace from the world, because the war within has ended. You have returned to the seat of your being, and from there, nothing can touch you. They can insult the mask, but you are no longer wearing it. They can judge the story, but you are no longer living it. They can doubt the dream, but the dreamer is awake now. And nothing is more dangerous to fear than a soul that has remembered itself. So breathe, let it all fall, let it all die, let the false crumble so the real can rise, not tomorrow, not someday, now, because you don't need to wait for another sign. This is the sign. You don't need another teaching. You need a reckoning. You don't need more information. You need permission, and only one person can give it. You. You are the gatekeeper. You are the key. You always were. And now you stand here, not as a student, but as the soul. No longer begging for answers, no longer clinging to the familiar cage. You are no longer asking, who am I supposed to be? But whispering something far more dangerous, who was I before the world told me who to be? And in that question, the world begins to tremble, because that question is not philosophy. It is fire. It is a match struck in the heart of illusion. It is the end of pretending. Everything they built on top of you, the expectations, the roles, the personas, was made to serve them, not you. It served their comfort, their hierarchy, their need to understand you, label you, box you in. And so they wrapped you in identities like chains. You are this kind of man. You are that kind of woman. You come from here. You should believe this. You must never question. But you are questioning now. You're peeling the labels off, and what you're finding underneath is not a blank slate, but a wild, wordless truth. You do not need to become anything. You only need to remember what you are without the mask. And that remembering, it doesn't come with trumpets. It doesn't come with applause. It comes with silence, with stillness. It comes in the moment you stop trying to impress. The moment you stop defending your image, the moment you stop explaining yourself to people who only understand mirrors. In that silence, truth begins to rise, like a fog lifting, like a lion stretching after a long sleep. At first, it may feel unfamiliar, because you've spent a lifetime identifying with the storm. You've called yourself the anger. You've called yourself the grief. You've called yourself the fear. But you were never the storm. You were the sky, wide, unmoved, infinite. And when the storm finally passes, you realize it never touched you. Not really, it only passed through. So let the clouds come. Let the winds howl. Let the thoughts race and the fears scream. You, the true you, are untouched. You are the space, not the sound. You are the awareness, not the thought. You are the presence, not the performance. And in that realization, everything shifts, because once you know you are the sky, you no longer fear the weather. You let it come and you let it go. You don't attach. You don't resist. You don't beg the world to understand, because the sky does not beg. It simply is. So what does this mean for your life? It means you can walk into a room without needing to prove yourself. You can face conflict without defending an image. You can love without grasping. You can create without comparison, because you are no longer driven by fear, no longer ruled by the identity that once demanded your loyalty. And the world, it will sense it, the way animals sense a shift in the wind, the way mountains echo the footsteps of something ancient. People may not know what has changed in you, but they will feel it. Your presence will no longer echo the pain of the past, but the power of something eternal. You won't need to raise your voice. Your silence will speak volumes. You won't need to chase success. It will flow to the frequency of your truth. You won't need to beg to be seen, because you have seen yourself. And that seeing, it rewrites everything. No longer am I this name. No longer am I this mask. No longer am I this echo of other people's fear. I am the breath. I am the fire. I am the silence before the sound. I am that which cannot be named. And from this knowing, you will rise, not as a person trying to do better, but as presence remembering its place. You'll walk through life like water, fluid, grounded, free. No longer a prisoner of the past, no longer a puppet of the program, no longer a slave to the story, but a living question, a walking flame, a mirror to the divine. And the world will not always understand, but it will feel, and the few, the rare few, will remember something in themselves just by being near you. They will say, there is something about you. And you will smile, not because they finally see you, but because you finally do. Because now you are not surviving the illusion. You are living the truth. And truth is not safe. Truth is not polite. Truth is not convenient. But truth is free. And you were born for it. And now that you see, you cannot unsee. The truth has cracked the mask. The fire has spread. And the old house, the house of fear, image, survival, cannot hold your soul any longer. You walk through its door, not with anger, not with vengeance, but with clarity. And clarity is enough. It dissolves illusion without effort. It dismantles the lie without rage. It sets fire to everything false, not to destroy, but to make room. Room for what is real. You don't need to fix the false self. You don't need to argue with it or prove it wrong. You only need to stop mistaking it for you. Because the voice of limitation, that harsh, whispering critic inside your mind, is not wise. It is not holy. It is not even original. It is a loop, a recording, a survival mechanism, the last echo of a time when you thought you had to earn your right to exist. But no more. You exist. And that alone makes you worthy. Not because of what you've done. Not because of how well you perform. Not because others approve. You are worthy because you are. Because life chose you. Because breath moves through your body. And that is evidence enough. The tree does not need permission to reach for the sky. The wave does not apologize for crashing. The sun does not ask if it's too bright. And you do not need to apologize for your existence. You do not need to earn your right to be here. You already are. But for years, they trained you to question that. They told you that your worth must be proven, that your truth must be approved, that your power must be domesticated, and you agreed. Not because it was true, but because it was safe. You chose acceptance over truth, belonging over freedom, approval over authenticity. But the cost was everything real in you, the joy, the fire, the knowing, all of it dimmed to keep the peace with people who were never at peace with themselves. But now the contract is broken. You will no longer abandon your soul to protect someone else's fear. You will no longer shrink to fit a room too small for your spirit. You will no longer dim your voice to avoid offending the ones still asleep, because you have awakened. And awakening is not always gentle. It rattles the walls, it shatters the mirrors, it burns the veil to ash. But it leaves behind something holy. Not a better version of the false self, but the end of pretending altogether. You are not becoming anything. You are remembering what was always true. And that remembering, it's not a thought, it's not a philosophy. It's a recognition, a wordless knowing that needs no proof. It lives in your breath, in your stillness, in the silence between all your striving. It is the part of you that has never moved, never changed, never needed improvement. It is the flame at the center of the storm, the eye that sees without judgment, the presence that watches the mind without believing its lies. And when you live from that place, everything changes. You speak differently. You listen differently. You walk into rooms and shift the air without saying a word, because your presence is no longer tied to performance. It is anchored in being, and the world feels that. It doesn't always like it, but it feels it. Some will try to pull you back, not because they are evil, but because your freedom reminds them of their cage. Some will call you arrogant, not because you are, but because your clarity terrifies their confusion. And some will fall away. Let them. Your path is not to carry the ones who refuse to walk. Your path is to walk. And by walking, you light the way. Not by force, not by preaching, but by being what they forgot was possible. A soul awake in the world. Not performing, not pretending, not pleasing, just present. And in your presence, they will begin to remember too. Not all, not always, but some. And that is enough. You are not here to save them. You are not here to fix them. You are not even here to convince them. You are here to be so fully yourself that the lie cannot survive in your presence. And when enough of us do this, when enough of us drop the mask, speak the truth, burn the script, the world changes. Not because we demanded it, but because we stopped feeding the illusion. One soul at a time, one remembering at a time, one breath at a time. And now that you've remembered, you'll never go back. The mirror is broken, the mask is off, the fire is lit, and you, beloved soul, are free. But if you are free, and if you have remembered, then why does the voice still speak? Why does the doubt still whisper? Why does the pull of the past still echo in your bones? It is because freedom is not a moment, it is a path, and the path must pass through the subconscious, that vast hidden chamber beneath the surface of your life, where every belief you've ever swallowed still lives. Every story you mistook for truth, every thought repeated so often it built a castle in your mind and crowned itself king. You think you are thinking your thoughts, but most of them were never yours to begin with. They were given to you, taught to you, impressed upon you in your most impressionable moments. And what repeats becomes reality. Not because it is true, but because the mind is obedient. The mind will always follow the master. The tragedy is, most people never realize they can choose who that master is. For most, the master is fear, the master is memory, the master is a parent's voice, long dead, still running the show in the shadows. But the moment you see it, you are no longer bound by it. This is where the deeper war begins. Not in the world, but in the mind. Not with others, but with the unexamined. Because the subconscious is a builder. It will build what you feed it. And for most of your life, it has been fed lies. You are not enough. You will always struggle. You must be perfect to be loved. You must be small to stay safe. These were never facts. They were beliefs. But beliefs, when repeated, become blueprints. And the subconscious does not question blueprints. It builds them. Your life, your patterns, your results, your repeated outcomes are not accidents. They are the fruit of these hidden roots. So if you want to change the fruit, you must change the root. And if you want to change the root, you must speak the language the subconscious understands. It does not understand logic. It does not understand reason. It does not understand your goals, your affirmations, your good intentions. It understands one thing: emotionally charged repetition. It is not what you say once with hope that changes your life. It is what you say 1,000 times with feeling, over and over until the echo of the lie is drowned by the roar of truth. This is the holy work. This is the fire that purifies the mind. Not passive wishing, but intentional reprogramming. This is what I once called auto-suggestion. But most people get it wrong. They repeat empty phrases, hollow words without conviction. They say, "I am confident," while their heart screams, "I'm not enough." They say, "I am wealthy," while their nervous system trembles with lack. They say, "I am powerful," but their breath is shallow, their chest tight, their mind filled with doubt. The subconscious is not fooled by words. It listens to feeling. It records what is said in your moments of passion, your moments of heartbreak, your moments of intensity, for better or worse. The nights you wept and said, "I'll never be loved." The mornings you panicked and thought, "I always mess it up." The days you flinched and told yourself, "This is just who I am." The subconscious heard, and it obeyed. But now, you must speak with new fire, not with the whimper of affirmation, but with the roar of revelation. I am not this fear. I am not this story. I am the one who sees. I am the one who chooses. I am the one who creates. Say it until your body believes. Say it until the old recordings are overwritten. Say it until you feel the shift, not as a hope, but as a knowing. Because here is the secret. You do not believe what is true. You believe what is familiar, so you must make the truth more familiar than the lie. You must repeat it, live it, breathe it, until your cells vibrate with it, until the truth becomes the only thing that feels real. Not because the lie is gone, but because it no longer holds power. It may still speak, but it no longer decides. And that is where your freedom begins. Not in the silence of all fear, but in the choice to stop obeying it. Fear will whisper, doubt will echo. The voice of the old self will rise again. Let it rise, let it speak, but do not bow. Do not forget what you've seen. Do not unknow what you now know. You are not a servant of that voice. You are its master. You are its observer. You are the presence that watches, but no longer identifies. And each time you remember this, you change your future. Each time you speak truth with feeling, you rewire the roots. Each time you choose presence over programming, you take another step toward becoming the author of your life, not a puppet, not a victim, not a product of your past, but a conscious creator, aware of the unseen, devoted to the truth, unmoved by the noise. This is not easy work. This is not overnight transformation. It is spiritual labor. It is psychological fire. It is emotional revolution, but it is possible. And you are ready, because the voice in your head is not your enemy, it is your echo. And the echo only fades when a new sound is spoken louder. So speak. Speak truth. Speak power. Speak life. Not once, not occasionally, but every day, with feeling, with fire, with full devotion, because the subconscious will not resist. It will not argue. It will not rebel. It will simply believe, and then it will build. And what it builds will look like a miracle to the world. But you will know it was never a miracle. It was simply you remembering your role as the builder and choosing at last to build something true. Now that you know, you must move, not later, not once you feel ready, not once the fear subsides or the perfect plan appears. Now, because the truth is not meant to sit inside you like a secret. It is meant to ignite your steps. It is meant to turn your remembering into revolution. Do not wait for permission. You've already given it. The moment you saw through the lie, you broke the spell. Now rise from the ashes of that illusion and walk. But walk how? Not as the mask, not as the old name, not as the personality that was built for applause. Walk as truth, as presence, as fire. Let your life reflect your knowing. Let your habits speak your new name. Let your choices declare your freedom. If you are not the old story, stop rehearsing it. Stop telling people what they did to you. Stop explaining why you can't. Stop anchoring your power to the past. You do not owe anyone an explanation for your evolution. You do not need to make it palatable. You do not need to wrap your rebirth in politeness. You are not here to make others comfortable. You are here to burn falsehood to the ground with your very existence. So speak differently, even if your voice shakes. Act differently, even if your hands tremble. Say no where you once said yes to please. Say yes where you once shrank to survive. Walk into the room with your chest open, not because you know what will happen, but because you no longer need to, because you are no longer performing. You are no longer negotiating your worth. You are being, and that is enough. Your work is not to fix the world. It is to stop lying about who you are, to stop pretending you are powerless, to stop trading your truth for approval. You do not have to roar to be powerful. You do not have to dominate to be free. You only have to be unapologetically aligned. Let the way you eat reflect your worth. Let the way you rest reflect your trust. Let the way you speak reflect your soul's memory. No more shrinking, no more explaining, no more waiting for the world to catch up. It won't, because it never leads, it only reflects. And when you shift, the world must respond. So live not as a reaction, but as a revelation. Your morning routine is no longer maintenance, it is declaration. Your relationships are no longer coping mechanisms. They are mirrors for your expansion. Your job, your art, your movement, they are no longer things you do. They are how you broadcast the truth of who you are. And yes, this will cost you. You will lose the things that belong to the old you, the circles that only accepted your mask, the habits that numbed your knowing, the distractions that kept you asleep, Let them fall. They are not being taken. They are being revealed for what they always were, unworthy of you. And in their absence, you will not be empty, you will be available. Available for power, for clarity, for divine direction. Because once the mask falls, life can finally speak to the real you. Not the actor, not the puppet, but the one who dares to live without the script. And here's the truth that must now guide you. Your identity is a choice. Every morning you choose what story to live. You choose which voice to obey. You choose what you allow to define you. So choose with fire, choose with blood. Choose with the authority of a soul that remembers its own light. Say it aloud if you must. I remember who I am. I revoke the false name. I release the mask. I rise as the witness, the creator, the storm and the stillness, the breath and the flame. And then, act like it. Let your life match your knowing. Let your words burn with truth. Let your posture declare your freedom. You have remembered. Now, become. This is not the end. This is the return. The return to what you were before the world told you otherwise, before the lies, before the labels, before you began mistaking survival for identity. You are not waking up to something new. You are waking up to something ancient, something eternal, something unshaken by time, untouched by pain. And that something is you.